All right, y'all. Welcome to the Hoopz Junkiez Podcast. I'm your boy Marcus. This is my brother AB, my brother from the same mother. Say what's up, AB.
What's up? What's up, everybody?
Yeah, so we are going to be talking about our favorite sport, NBA basketball. You think NBA basketball is your favorite sport, right?
It's the only sport.
There you go. There you go. People be asking me about football. I'm like, football? Why are we wasting time talking about football? So
No,
yeah,
I like football too, but basketball that's my first love. So
yeah, I have to agree. And of course, we are from Houston, Texas, and so I'm representing my Houston Rockets. I'm not going to have a sports podcast, a basketball podcast, and not talk about the Houston Rockets. So I'm wearing my shirt for our first inaugural, I think that's what you call it, inaugural show. And I'm representing the Rockets right off the bat. Where's your Houston Rockets t-shirt? You got a hat? At least you got to have a hat.
That's mostly what I own, so I figured I'd just ease it in. But I got mostly Rockets gear, so you're going to see a lot of Rockets.
Let's go ahead and jump into it. Well, since we're talking about the Houston Rockets, we might as well start there. I'm disappointed. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of disappointed about the early exit this year. I think 2018.
Don't get me started.
2018 was our best year. I felt like that was the best chance we had to win with this group and this coach, and I really thought that we was gonna do something. But I don't know, man. I don't know what it's gonna take for that next step. I think it may sound bad, but I think getting rid of the coach that we have, Mike D'Antoni, he couldn't get us over that hump. So I think it's good that he moved on, which, the 76ers is picking him up now. So.
Well, I mean, that's confirmed. I don't think that's not confirmed yet. They're still going back and forth. But I guess he's their leading candidate. But I think that it's a good start.
Mm-hmm.
And Alvin definitely was in the camp that said Mike D'Antoni had to go.
Yeah.
So anybody that know me and listening to me talk know I complain all the time about Mike D'Antoni. And I want to say, so I think he's a good coach. So I don't want to make it sound like he's not a good coach. He had the highest win percentage in Houston Rockets franchise history.
Yeah.
As far as, we won the most games. We had our single highest winning season in 2018, with him coaching. And it sounds, I hate to say that I don't think that he could get us over the hump to where we, to being able to win a title, because I think he gets a bad rap from that standpoint. And I think in 2018, that's a whole nother conversation. But Chris Paul don't get hurt.
Yeah.
That team probably wins a championship.
And Mike D'Antoni probably still be the coach.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And then also even saying that, the past 4 or 5 years was an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Golden State Warriors team arguably is the greatest team ever.
Yeah. And it's the thing is, I know a lot of people don't want to say that because they want to say that the Chicago Bulls with Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, no matter who else you interchanged on that team, that team was the greatest team.
Well, that's why I say arguably.
Yeah, arguably.
So I'm saying arguably. I'm not saying they are, but the fact that they even are mentioned that way, and I think that 2018 Rockets team was arguably one of the greatest teams ever too. For a single season, they had one single. I think that team was that good.
Yeah.
So in any normal year, you don't have two teams that great.
Yeah.
Any normal year, the Warriors don't exist. The Rockets probably go through and they gentlemen sweep everybody. And I think LeBron got swept by that team. I think if I'm not mistaken, they got swept. So LeBron couldn't even win a game against that team.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a knock on LeBron, but I'm going to say no one's making the argument that James Harden is better than LeBron James or a greater player than greater, historically, where you rack them. And a LeBron-led team couldn't win the game.
Yeah.
So Paul goes down. The Rockets losing Game 7 by single digits. It was a close game. They had a chance against that Golden State team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'd say if we were able to get by Golden State, we'd probably win a championship, and then the whole narrative is different. But unfortunately, that's how history shakes out.
I'd be willing to bet the farm on that we would have won the championship if we would have got past Golden State. And a lot of people was actually saying the game between the Rockets and Golden State was the championship.
It was the finals. So the only reason why I won't definitively say that, and I'm gonna take. I try to be as non-biased as I can. I'm a Rockets fan, but I try to be non-biased.
Yeah.
LeBron James is a whole nother beast.
Yeah.
So if Chris Paul was still gonna be hurt and still not able to play,
mm-hmm.
Then that levels the playing field a bit more, changes the dynamic. Yeah. So even had we beaten Golden State in Game 7, could James Harden go in there and lead that Rockets team, over LeBron in the finals and the series without Chris Paul being out there.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna say it's 100%, but now had Chris Paul stayed healthy and Chris Paul don't get hurt, that's a whole nother discussion. I think we would have won, and I think that we would have easily beat Cleveland with a healthy Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And then the way that team was in 2018, and Mike D'Antoni's still the coach, but that's not what was in the cards.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, his stubbornness and failure to adjust, with the in games.
I agree, but hold on, yes, because I want to touch on something else. I was going to bring up his stubbornness and unwillingness to change strategies in important games. But hold on, before we go there, let's talk about something else, because you said something that will be very controversial to a lot of people, especially those people that are not Rockets fans. I feel what you're saying, and I understand the reason why you said it, but you said that the 2018 Rockets team was arguably one of the greatest teams in the NBA. Okay, now I'm playing devil's advocate here, and I'm gonna say, do you think, because even though that team had a high win percentage and this and that, and they seem to be just trucking through everybody during the regular season, do you believe that 2000, before we even start trying to compare them to the Golden State Warriors and the old Chicago Bulls team led by Michael Jordan, do you think that 2018 Rockets team was better than the 93, 96 championship Rockets team? You got to compare it that way.
So now you're tugging at my heart. So,
because, and the reason why I'm asking that question is because those teams won the championship.
I do. This team didn't. And this is what I'm gonna say. It's hard because they didn't win the championship. They ultimately didn't win the championship. So, the 93, 94, 94, 95 Rockets are going to go down as the greatest Rockets teams because they won the title back to back.
Right.
Nonetheless, swept the second time. Hakeem, the all-time greatest Rocket.
Kill Shaq.
As far as,
barbecue chicken.
Barbecue chicken. But look, so I'm going to give, so I'm just pull out just a couple things, right? Why I say they're the greatest Rocket team ever. So we know they won 65 games that year.
Yeah.
Chris Paul was the second best player on the team, an all-star caliber player. Even though he didn't make it that year, they kind of held it against him that he missed so many games.
Yeah.
Chris Paul missed 25 games that year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking. I don't have the stats in front, but 24 to 25 games. So Chris Paul missed more than a third of the season.
Yeah.
Right. So start with that. So you take an all-star off. You're only a 2 all-star team.
Mm-hmm.
So you take Chris Paul away for that stretch, and you still won 65 games. James Harden missed about 2 weeks of the season. I think he played like 71 games that year. Some people tried to use that against him in the MVP debate, because they looked at it was, I think LeBron finished second, and they're like, well, LeBron had higher totals than everything, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's because LeBron actually that year played all 82 games for the first time ever, so his totals were higher than James, because James, who normally plays all games or maybe missed one, you know, because he missed 2 weeks. So Chris Paul missed 24 games. James Harden misses 11 games. Clint Capella went out for a couple weeks. Eric Gordon went out for a couple weeks. Those are your top four players, right?
Yeah.
They still won 65 games.
Luke and Bahamute missed some games with a shoulder injury and was kind of in and out of the rotation.
Yeah. And I'll touch on him later if we get time, because that's one, you know. But so, and they had a stretch right around Christmas and the New Year where they lost 5 games in a row.
Right.
Now let me remind you that they won 65 games.
That's crazy.
So I just outlined all the players, all your key players, your top, 4 players that all missed, significant time. And I believe Chris Capella and Eric Gordon were all out at the same time.
Yeah, because they had to bring in what's your boy name to replace Capella. Gerald Green was getting it done, and then also they brought in, man, what's my man name with the dreadlocks? I forget what his name is.
Kenneth Faried,
the Manimal. Yep.
So,
and he was getting it done, and then they didn't play him. Mike D'Antoni.
I think that was the following year. I think that was 2019 with Faried and Austin Rivers.
Was it?
Yeah.
But so when Clint Capella went down, who?
We didn't. that's
James Harden. James Harden.
So you're going in, and it was Isaiah Hartenstein, playing minutes and stuff.
Yeah. As much as I laugh about that now, I wish we had Isaiah Hartenstein in the playoffs this year.
But so I'll start from there. So you have your greatest winning season, that year, and you have all those factors working against you. Okay, and I know some people smarter than me that are into all the metrics or whatever can look up, but I believe that Rocket team was rated for the majority of the year until the injuries, and then until they start resting guys at the end of the year. Because they start resting because they wrapped up the 1 seed, with like 3 weeks to go in the season, and Golden State kind of gave up the chase. And they start resting guys and playing different lineups and stuff. But for the majority of the season, I said a good 70 games, 75 games, they were the top rated offense in NBA history.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree with that.
They finished in like the top 5, but for the majority of the year, they were, by offensive rating, the top rated offense ever.
Yeah. And their defense was pretty high too that year.
Defensively, they got up to being the top 5 defense.
Yeah.
Top 5, top 6.
And Golden State probably would never admit it, but I think Golden State was a bit concerned about this Rockets team this year, how we was blasting everybody.
So and then that year we played Golden State, and I don't want to tie everything down to Golden State, but I mean, we had games where we won against Golden State where James Harden didn't play. We won against Golden State where Chris Paul didn't play.
Yeah.
Over the stretch, and this is going more than 2018. I say over that 2-year stretch where we had Chris Paul and James Harden, the Rockets were the only team that had a winning record against Golden State, and it was like a 14-game sample size where, the Rockets had the upper hand in it. So to show that, to say that the fact that we were up on them in position to win that series was not a fluke.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then in the end, James Harden and Hakeem, if you want to look at who's the greater player in NBA history, and Chris Paul and Clyde Drexler, where you want to rack and stack them, it's kind of skewed because right now, Hakeem is a 2-time champion.
Yeah. James
Harden, has that champion missing from his resume.
Yeah.
But if I'm being honest, who was the better team overall, I think it actually was the 2018 team. Yeah. Now, and then it depends on what rules you're playing with and all other kind of stuff. That 2018 team was
people
great.
go bring that into the argument.
Yeah.
The rules, everything was different.
And
no
it's
hand
funny.
checking.
It's funny because James gets the reputation as not being clutch,
Mm-hmm.
and not delivering when it matters. But all year that year, it was just a magical year.
Yeah.
It's like they would trade, they were feeding off each other. So, Chris Paul would take the baton and be like, I got it. I close it out. I got the matchup. I got the matchup advantage. Someone can't check me, or, James, you got the matchup advantage. They can't check you and they can't double team you.
Yeah.
The way people start running all out double teams the last couple of years because Chris wasn't healthy. He wasn't able to be this man.
Right.
Then we traded Chris. Russ can't shoot, so they can employ these tactics. In 2018, that couldn't be done.
Yeah.
My best friend's a Golden State Warriors fan. Maybe we'll have him on the podcast before. All year we talked about this, and I told him, I was like, I had extreme confidence in that team that we could win. And even if we didn't win, I knew that we could play with them and it wasn't going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah.
And I was like, Tucker, you can't leave him open in the corner. He is shooting about 40%, 40+% from the corner. Now, he might not shoot or be a 40% shooter overall, but when he's camped out in those corners, he's going to
he getting comfortable, and ain't nobody working him because they going after Chris Paul and James Harden.
Yeah.
And that team was just, but it wasn't. But here's the thing: it wasn't just PJ Tucker. Everybody on that team, it's just, as a matter of fact, it got to the point to where when they missed the 3-point shot, I was actually surprised in 2000 because they were nailing. I mean, they were burying teams by 18 points a game.
Yeah, and that's the other thing when I talked about some stats and stuff, like how much we were winning by the net rating.
Yeah.
How much we were beating the other top teams in the league, like the record against them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different things you can point to. But like you said, everyone was a star in their role.
Yeah.
Trevor Ariza, PJ Tucker, like I've been complaining for some years that Trevor Ariza's role is too large. He's playing too important of a role for the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
As he was getting up in age, and his effectiveness, as you continue to play so many minutes, you start to limit his effectiveness as a defender, as a 3-and-D guy, and now I'm kind of saying the same thing about PJ Tucker now.
Yeah.
But then with Trevor Ariza, when we brought PJ Tucker in, and then you brought in Luke Baamute, who was the unsung hero of that team.
Mm-hmm.
Some people in the Twitterverse refuse to admit, like the non-Rockets fans, refuse to admit how important he was. He actually, by every number, every metric that you want to look at, was the best Rocket defender on the team that year. Better than Trevor, better than PJ,
better than Eric Gordon.
Yeah, and then he was able to switch and defend on the perimeter, but switch and defend in the post just as well. And he had the length, but what made him even a little bit different than what PJ and Trevor could do is he could put the ball on the ground.
Yeah.
And get to the basket and make a play.
And finish at the rim. Finish at the rim.
That's how he got hurt in the first place.
Yeah.
It's because he literally put the ball on the ground, went and dunked like his life depended on it. And he dunked too hard, slipped off the rim.
And his shoulder.
And messed the shoulder up.
Yeah.
And it ended up hurting so much. During the playoffs in general, but mostly in that Warriors series. And I felt like as well as we played, they never got a chance to see that Rockets team at their best because Luke Baamute was I hope I'm saying his name right.
Luke Baamute.
Yeah.
I think.
So the Prince was never able to play. He was never himself.
Yeah.
So he became unplayable. He couldn't even make a layup because he weren't comfortable, raising his arm to finish or maybe taking the hit. He wasn't comfortable. So but that team, they had everything that you wanted when Chris Paul is so smart defensively. he's willing to. And it's funny because we're known as, they missed 27 threes in a row. Well, if
Yeah.
Chris Paul was there, they never take that many threes in a row because Chris
Yeah.
Paul would have, been.
He would have been able to. He would have been able to work the mid range, and
He'd have been comfortable enough to go in and settle and take the mid range and not be like, okay, well, we can't get to the basket without we get to the basket. Golden State hit us. There's no call.
yeah.
We shoot the three. They foul us. There's no call, or we just miss a three.
Yeah. Let me say this too, Golden State fans. I want to say this to the Golden State fans because I think y'all forget something. On your team, you had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Mr. Peasy Head, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, and I forget whoever was playing center for him at the time. It might have been like Looney, Kevin Looney.
Yeah,
Looney playing at the center. On the Rockets team, what stars did you have? You had James Harden, and you had Chris Paul for some of the playoffs. And then everybody for most of the playoffs. After Chris Paul goes down, everybody else that Golden State is playing against are role players. All right. So we up against, and I think all four of their starters on Golden State team were all-stars, right? That year they were all stars. And we brought them, Golden State fans, we brought y'all all the way to the final game.
Hold on. Let me add to this because you ain't paint the picture good enough.
Okay, go
Steph
ahead.
Curry is a two-time MVP.
Two-time MVP.
And the only unanimous MVP.
Right.
The greatest shooter to ever live.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to give proper credit and respect to what they are. He's the greatest shooter ever.
And then you have the next greatest shooter ever.
Well, I was gonna get to Klay. What was you talking about, Klay or Kevin?
Pick one. I was gonna say that, and then I was gonna say then you had the third greatest shooter ever.
So Kevin Durant is a 3-time scoring champion and an MVP.
An MVP, yeah.
And for the a pretty good while universally recognized as the number 2 greatest player in the world active player in the world behind LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
It was arguable because some people would say that was Steph Curry.
Yeah.
So either way it goes, you can argue that they had 2 and 3.
Yeah. Both of them on your team.
And some people were arguing by that point that Kevin Durant was the best player in the world.
Right. At that point, because they had won the championship the year before.
Yeah, and before that, before he joined, Steph was the face of the NBA and all. So that's what you're working with.
Yeah.
Draymond Green.
Defensive player.
Defensive player of the year.
Mm-hmm. The ultimate role player.
The ultimate Swiss Army knife.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate utility guy that can switch everything. He's the linchpin that kind of. It's funny because I get into it like who makes Golden State go. It's to me it's between Steph and Draymond Green, but Draymond Green is the one running the offense and allowing Steph and Klay to just run around picks and not have to do it off the dribble and make things go. And then finally, this is bad, you get the Klay Thompson. Now, I didn't listen here and heard Charles Barkley and Chuck and other players come out here and praise Klay for being the greatest the best two-way player in the game. Right? He is, in my opinion, the second best shooter to ever live.
Yeah.
Now, when I say shooter, I mean just pure shooter.
Yeah.
He might not do it off the dribble and do all this stuff, but I'm talking about just pure shooting the ball.
Yeah.
How good of a shooter he is. You may have had the 2 greatest shooters on the court all the time, and oh, by the way, you got another 7-foot one.
Yeah.
That can be in the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Iggy missed half the series along with Chris Paul.
Yeah, I forgot about Iggy. Look, they had such a stacked team that you would forget about one of the players.
Iggy
who's
was
a major
an all-star.
player.
Iggy's been an all-star. So when you sit there and you say that's what the Rockets and James Harden and Mike D'Antoni were up against, and then now you're asking him to go do it without Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm. They had
LeBron,
all 5 Infinity Stones.
LeBron had 5. He had 4 games to try to win and couldn't win one.
Yeah.
And then the next year, he couldn't win, or the year prior he couldn't win. He only won one.
Yeah.
So if LeBron couldn't win against it, and that was they had won a championship, and it's always harder to win the first championship.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I bring up is, the Warriors, in my opinion, had one of the luckiest runs ever to their first championship title.
Yeah.
2015.
Yeah.
They didn't face,
everybody getting hurt.
They didn't face a single starting point guard. When they played the Rockets in the conference finals, our starting point guard was 38-year-old Jason Terry.
Yeah.
I'm 38 and my knees hurt right now.
Yeah. Mine hurt just talking to you.
I just moved the wrong way. Jason Terry, Jason Terry was a really good player in his own right, but by the time he was 38,
yeah, he was a shell of what he was.
And Pablo Prigioni, who hustles,
mm-hmm.
God bless him, he tried, what I'm saying, but at that point, he's older than Jason Terry. Like, that's the backup.
Yeah.
And not only is those your starters, but these are the players that's tasked with stopping Steph Curry.
Yeah.
The unanimous MVP.
My soul hurts just right now, just thinking about them having to try to stop Steph Curry. My soul is hurting. Yeah.
And but once you win a title, all the pressure to win is gone off you.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, no one can ever take it back, regardless of the circumstances. And if you wanted to see the correlation of what winning that title and the confidence they have, look no further than Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Universally recognized as a choker. I think one couple times he had bubble guts in the middle of the game. He had to go relieve himself.
Remember when Kyle Lowry played for the Rockets and he was the backup behind Aaron Brooks?
So what I don't want to do, I don't want this to come across, because Kyle Lowry is a really good player, but he was known, and when he was in the Rockets, he was a really good player too. I always.
And the Rockets really wanted him because he was a really good player playing for Memphis.
Yeah, I was gonna say that when he was in Memphis, I know he was coming off the bench, backing up Mike Conley, and I was like, man, I really liked him. I always liked him. So when we got him, I was really happy.
Yeah,
really good player. But I'm saying it's what the championship does. When they would come up against LeBron and not be able to get over the hump, and Kyle Lowry would struggle and come off small, and everyone would say how he was not a winner, a clutch player, and all this kind of things.
Yeah.
They win the championship last year.
Mm-hmm.
They had
the whole narrative changes.
Even luckier championship run. The ball bouncing on the rim 10 times to get there, and then you face a decimated Golden State team.
Yeah.
But they did it. Yeah, and then fast forward to this year in the bubble with no Kawhi Leonard this time,
mm-hmm.
and everyone can't stop raving about how clutch Kyle Lowry is.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that happens if they don't win a championship?
No,
heck
no.
Championship last year. Do you think Kyle Lowry's performing that way, or do you think he's still getting tight when the moment comes?
He's still getting tight, but you know what? Also, all the pressure was on Kyle Lowry because, number one, Kyle Lowry was the leader of the team.
He was the go-to guy.
He was the point guard, and the point guard is the floor general and this and that. But also, when they won the championship, it brought the confidence up of all the rest of the players, OG Anunoby and what's my man name, the center, Siakam. I mean, it brought all of their confidence up, and so they started coming into their own, and they realized, hey, we don't have to just ride Kyle Lowry and try to get him to get us there. And so when everybody coming into their own, Van Vliet, when everybody coming into their own, they start being able to carry some of that load too. And I think that's a big thing of it. They're like, hey, Kyle Lowry a champion, I'm a champion. I got something to contribute.
I mean, you've been there and done that. So it's not, if you fail, It's not the same. Like right now, James Harden has never won a championship before. Chris
Mm-hmm.
Paul has never won a championship before. So every time they come up short, every time they don't make the hit the big shot, you know, they don't win the big game. It's all they can never do it. You can never win. Mike D'Antoni loses in the finals. His style doesn't win. Once you've done it before, regardless of the circumstances, you've done it. That can't be taken away. You always will be a champion. And no matter how much I might remember all the luck that went into Golden State winning the title, or how much I'll talk about the luck that Toronto had in winning the title, they won it. Yeah. And, you know, in the history books, you know, when we get 10, 15, 20 years from now, people not going to look at the circumstances around it. They're just going to realize that you won a title.
James Harden, you mentioned James Harden hadn't won the championship. Chris Paul hadn't won the championship. Russell Westbrook hadn't won the championship. To me, here's the reason why I think they hadn't won the championship yet. And more so James Harden than anybody, is that just like the Raptors had to learn that they can't just rely on one person and everybody start coming into their own. And if you think about all the championship teams, all of them were like this. The role players had to be depended on too, a lot more than what, you know, than what the Rockets depend on PJ Tucker. Really, the Rockets, in my opinion, ride James Harden a lot. And in James Harden's mind, he thinks
they had the formula in 2018.
They had the formula. And notice in 2018, just like we said earlier, all of those players were going off. They were all like experts and good at the thing that they brought to the team. Yeah, and it wasn't just James Harden.
So well in that series, you know, minus Game 7, but
James Harden was the constant threat that drew everybody's attention to him, but it was the other players that was killing. And like we said, it got to a point where if they missed a 3-pointer, that would surprise you because you just thought every 3-pointer was gonna go in. But I think along the way they forgot about that style of play. And I know they had to change it up a little bit, or they wanted to change it up a little bit going with this small ball thing. But that style of play just kind of changed, especially early on when Chris Paul went out the beginning of the following season and James Harden had to do the whole scoring thing. It just changed from that point.
So, hey, to switch gears a little bit, so you had mentioned earlier when we first started, you know, open up, talking about how you were disappointed, you know, with how things ended, you know, this. You know, I wasn't really disappointed because I never saw this 2020 team, and I didn't see the 2019 team really either, as a team that actually had what it took to win a title.
That is true.
The small ball, and so if you go back and look at the small ball, they had extreme highs and extreme lows.
Yeah.
When they first started the small ball, you know, they were winning, people trying to figure it out. And then right before the break, you know, before everything shut down because of COVID, you know, we were losing like 5 games in a row.
We were, It was on a bad losing streak.
So, and I think that the reason why that is because small ball, and we weren't playing the normal small ball. People have played small ball before. Yeah. The Rockets were playing an extreme version of small ball.
Yeah. You know, they wasn't bringing no big man into the game at all.
No big man. And, you know, you're not even doing it with, you know, guys that are all 6'7", 6'8", like size guys.
Yeah. You're
doing it with 6'3" guys that are 6'3".
Sometimes 5'9". You know? Clemens.
So I mean, it was an extreme version of playing small ball, and it's just taxing. Yeah. So, and I understood what they were saying is that, man, Golden State would go, you know, and do this for 20 minutes and just annihilate everybody. You know, I think the Bleacher Report,
they death line up.
You know, the Game of Zones when James Harden. Yeah. You ever see that episode when James Harden and Mike D'Antoni are in there tinkering, and Mike D'Antoni's like, "Aha, got it."
I hadn't saw that episode, but I need to catch up on the Game of Zones. That's a pretty good episode. If y'all hadn't seen the Game of Zones, go to Bleacher Report. They often have the Gamer Zones on there. It's really funny. But anyway, go ahead. Let me say this first before you go on, because I'm looking at you on the computer and you look like you're wearing a ninja mask. Cause around you, cause with the light and everything around you, yeah, you need to get you a light, brother. But anyway, you look like you wearing a COVID mask, like over your neck and over your mouth. You knew I was gonna get you.
Into my teeth. Then you see my teeth.
And I'm glad you can laugh about it.
Hey, listen, my bone and cheek structure is still good. Anyway,
where were we?
They were playing an extreme version of small ball. I knew it wasn't gonna hold up. You know, I knew
they knew it wasn't gonna hold up. Mike D'Antoni.
So I'll tell you what did give me some optimism, and I had optimism when because of the way that Russ was playing. But when Russ started playing really well, James stopped playing really well. You know, and he still was putting up his points, but it wasn't nearly as efficient with how he was getting it. But then the bubble, everything stops, and I'm like, okay, they get a chance to kind of refresh their bodies. You know, I was like, going into the bubble, I knew that there would be some outlying performances, and you wonder like, okay, no crowd there. It's kind of like an open gym type of thing. How is this gonna translate? Is James Harden gonna be even better? Is there gonna be less pressure because you done got the fans and you in that kind of situation?
He's rested. He's lost weight.
He's rested. Weight. You know what I'm saying? Everything. PJ Tucker really needed the rest, right? He was banged up all year. Eric Gordon was banged up all year. So it gave me a little bit of hope. And then right before the bubble comes out, they said Russell Westbrook had COVID. Yeah,
that worried me because with the COVID, you don't know how it affects you.
You don't know how it's going to affect you. So everyone knows. So he had COVID, and then there was a mini training camp before the bubble games picked back up, the seeding games started. Russell misses all of the training camp.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone actually pays attention to the Rockets, the switch to small ball was not for James Harden. It was for Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
To open the floor for him. The system was designed off of him. James Harden with Clint Capella was like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah,
they worked.
He had what he wanted.
Well, you know, so it's like he could just make you pick and choose. You're gonna try to slide extra help to me. I lob it up to Capella every time. You know,
that's a good point. That's a good point you make about the small ball being mainly for Russell, because they figured that James Harden could probably just find his way in that system. Because he just
still did. He averaged almost 35 a game.
Yeah, but notice also, but notice also too, his scoring average started to drop just a little bit.
It did drop, but I'm saying that even with it dropping, it went from being almost 40 to 34, almost 35.
Yeah.
So I mean, it dropped. He had to start scoring some games below 30 to get the average to go down that high. But I mean, he still
that's crazy. Remember, like when players would score like 25 and then they have like 10 rebounds. It's like they had a double. Now ain't nobody impressed.
As far as the bubble is concerned, Russ comes back and he has COVID and he misses all the training camp. Then he misses the first few seeding games, and then he comes back and he plays, and you could tell that he's trying to knock some rust off. But Russ only goes one way. He's trying to knock it off, and he's like, okay,
Russ trying to knock off the rust.
Yeah, he has enough games to get his timing, his rhythm, and all that stuff down, and then he gets hurt.
Yeah.
Now this whole system is based on Russ being Russ.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And now the main cog missed all of the training camp, and then remember we hadn't had Robert Covington for that long. Jeff Green for that long.
Eric Gordon
was
injured.
You know, so now you're trying to put it all together, and the main pieces aren't getting that time to play together. Same thing. The Clippers had the same issue. Yeah. Their guys missed too many games, and they never had the time to really gel.
Yeah.
And you could see it happening all year, and you could see it once we got to the bubble with the Rockets when they start having these issues. It just really, really lowered my expectations for them. and then Russ gets the quad injury, and at first it's like, okay, they're just being extra careful because you close to the playoffs.
Yeah.
So and he missed like a game or two, and then he came back and played a game, and then they said that he re-injured, he tore it.
Yeah.
Or calf sprain, so he's gonna be out for, I want to say they said indefinitely or something like that. They said that he'd be out for
the whole first series against
the start, the start of the first series.
Yeah.
And now you're like, okay, you sprained your quad. Keep in mind that the sprained quad is the injury that cost Kawhi Leonard the whole year. Kawhi Leonard set out the entire.
And that's what cost Chris Paul, right? At the end of the Rockets season, because
the hamstring.
Oh, hamstring. Okay.
But Kawhi missed all of 2018.
Yeah.
With the Spurs because of the quad injury.
Kawhi only played the playoffs.
He got the greatest job on earth. But so now you say Russ, who is so reliant on his athletic ability.
Yeah. And
then we're gonna drop you back into the NBA playoffs with everybody ramped up, going as hard as they can go.
Yeah.
The team never had a chance, in my opinion. I never thought. I mean, I got some false hope for a little bit. Once we finally got past Oklahoma City, that was a bad matchup for us.
I was afraid of Oklahoma City because of Chris Paul specifically.
Yeah, we're so top heavy.
Yeah,
we're so top heavy because of Mike D'Antoni will only play, 7 guys, 8 guys, and if one guy gets in foul trouble, we ain't gonna go to the next person. You're never gonna pull DeMar Carroll off the bench.
So let's talk about this. Because I wanted to get into this earlier. Mike D'Antoni, we brought up earlier about his stubbornness, and they talk a lot of the analysts talk about this too, about how stubborn he is. Mike D'Antoni could be my favorite coach during the regular season, and then when it comes to the playoff, he always ticked me off. Because you just know that he's not going to make the adjustments that's needed in order to make sure that you have the best chance of winning. Who would you have liked to see more of play during those series?
First of all, you hit the nail on the head, and I got to go back because it ain't just one series. This is a trend with Mike D'Antoni.
Yeah. Right.
And I said it too. I told my best friend. I said, look, I don't know what it's gonna be or when it's gonna be. Mm-hmm. I just know one of the reasons why I didn't think the Rockets would win. I said, I don't know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be decisions that need to be made that Mike D'Antoni, when it's time to make them, he's not going to make them or he'll make the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. And I believe it all the way down to the core of my soul. Yeah. That he would make the wrong choice.
You can bet on it.
So I give an example was Game 3 versus Oklahoma City. You're right. If we win Game 3, we're up 2-0. Yeah. You win Game 3, you go 3-0. They're in the bubble. Yeah. These players are away from their families. No one in the history of the NBA has ever came back from a 3-0 deficit. Mm-hmm. It's never happened. 3-1's happened a few times this playoffs with Denver. Yeah. But no one's came back from 3-0. You're in the bubble. You've been away from your family all this time. Yeah. All the stuff that's going on in the world with the social justice, all this stuff. They had every reason to lay down and quit if the Rockets win this series. Yeah. And we get to the end and we're up by like 4 or 5 points. Mm-hmm. All we need to do is inbound the basketball. Yeah. James Harden takes some he takes some blame for this, right? Yeah. James does what he likes to do in these moments. It's just they're trying to inbound the ball.
And he's standing there.
Yeah. The players all over him doing everything, and James is gonna put his hip on him and reach his arm out and try to I'm gonna strong arm you without moving. Yeah. And that's James is taking that approach. Yeah. But PJ Tucker, we almost lost the game like this. 2 times we almost lost the game. Mm-hmm. We lost to Boston.
He lost just throws it in.
On the exact same thing with James Harden and Marcus Smart, and they end up calling a foul on James Harden.
Yeah, flopping.
They both flopped. Marcus Smart flopped like he always does. But it was James put himself in that situation. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't inbound the ball and we lost. And then
he pushes off on them. Yeah. He pushes off on the person and risks the referee calling a foul on him when the game is close.
Yeah, he's leaving it in the balance when the thing to do in that situation is move.
Yeah.
We lost a game to the Knicks because PJ Tucker, I love PJ Tucker, but he is not the person that needs to be inbounding the ball in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously not comfortable at making this pass under duress, with players under duress.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening right underneath the basket. James right there. And then the first time we can't get the ball in, and James Harden and Chris Paul did the simultaneous flop. And they actually gave the foul to Chris Paul. They gave it to Chris Paul. They could have given it to James Harden.
It could have
Both
went
of
either
them
way.
fouling each other and flopping.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave it to Chris Paul. We lucked out. And then we trying to inbound the ball again. James doing the exact same thing. Can't get the ball in.
Yeah.
At that point, as a coach, the head coach, you were there to manage situations. This high-level basketball, these are pros and whatever. A lot of times, you just come down to talent. But the coach, you're not a fan.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to just be sitting and watching what's going on. You need to be looking and understanding what's going on, and you coach to the situation.
Yeah.
Mike D'Antoni doesn't call timeout; he just lets it happen, right?
Yeah.
And then so we can't get the ball in bounce and we turn it over. The only way you lose these games is if you turn it over. If you get the ball in bounce, then you go shoot your free throw. You make one or two of them, and they can't catch up.
Yeah.
But we turned it over like 3 times in a row because we couldn't inbound the ball. And I'm like, Mike D'Antoni, call a timeout. You had 2 timeouts.
Yeah.
Here's where you call a timeout. Design a play that if James Harden don't want to move, call a timeout that gets Eric Gordon or Robert Covington or Austin Rip. Anyone.
Exactly. Or jump on their butt. Like, these coaches, they're scared to jump on their superstars' butt. But it's like, dude, everything riding on you. Everybody know we want to get you the ball. You can't stand in one spot and hope that the dude throw the ball right to your hand, especially PJ Tucker. Isn't this the one where the game ended and we had still 2 timeouts left?
We still had the timeouts left.
And he didn't use the timeouts in the game.
And I'm like, what are what are you doing as a coach? Yes, the player takes some blame. James Harden deserves to be blamed. And you need to either call a timeout and you have to get in James Harden's face if you need to. And he needs to respect you enough for you to be able to do this without him tuning you out.
Yeah.
And if he will tune you out, then you're not the coach that the Rockets need.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't command this situation, like we're trying to win a championship.
Yeah.
James Harden needs to be mature enough to take it.
Yeah.
And Mike D'Antoni needs to be willing to have the confrontation because this moment calls for that. Understand, like we went 7 games with Oklahoma City, and it shouldn't have went beyond 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
Right? If you win that game, chances are they get swept or they win 1 and we come back out and close them in 5. That's most likely what would happen.
But they think it brought us to game 7.
That moment slip, we end up going 7 games. And and then you run out of steam or whatever happened against the Lakers besides Daniel House.
That's a whole nother story. But the most dangerous part about that is you dealing with Chris Paul. Every time, the longer the series go on, he gets smarter and smarter and start figuring out different things that they could do to you, because guarantee you he going back and watching film and seeing how. And they started understanding that if they could keep the game close until the last quarter,
they could out-execute.
They could outlast the Rockets. And normally teams did. If they stay close to the Rockets, they outlasted them.
And you know what really did it for me?
What?
When you said what really did it for me when I was like, he has to go, is when we lost game 6 and we go to game 7, and then between game 7 they were asking, because Oklahoma had won all of the close games to that point. Yeah. All the games we won were blowouts.
Yeah.
We would blow them out, by 20 or 30, but then when it's close, we would lose because they would out execute us.
Mm-hmm.
And then they interview or whatever, they asked Mike D'Antoni, like, how do you win a close game? He said, don't let it be close. He was like, they're the best team in the NBA. This is the message that he puts out there.
Yeah.
Heading to a game 7.
Yeah.
They're the best team. He said they're the best team in the NBA all year in close games, so we got to not let it be close. What kind of plan is that? That's the plan you're going into?
He tried to be
to come up with that plan.
He tried to be Mr. Miyagi, Aaron. What Mr. Miyagi say? The best block is not to be there.
Yeah.
Don't be there when they throw the punch. That's like, okay.
And it's like, wow, man, you get all these millions of dollars. So he's a really good coach, but there's just short like that. Really, that's what makes you think that you might never be able to get it. Yeah. Although in 2018, I firmly believe that they could have gotten it, but then we see this. Yeah. So we'll talk about the other things that made me, when you talk about situations that left me wanting more.
That's crazy. It's crazy that a professional coach with that much experience just don't seem to learn from the, even from his Phoenix Suns days when he had Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire and them. He just don't.
It's just stubborn.
He hadn't learned.
If I'm Daryl Morey, I'm pissed because I'm like, why do you have a 15-man roster if under no circumstances are you going to play the last 7? The last 6 or 7 guys on the like no circumstances. We went into the bubble and you knew that Chris Clemens and Michael Frazier and whoever else was on
they wasn't gonna play.
They were never gonna get in the game under no circumstances. Like as long as he could have run with his 5, as long as he had 5 of his best 5 available, they would play the whole game. If you lost 6 and 7, man, then the 5 y'all just gotta do it. Don't get in foul trouble. And James, you just gotta go. That's the mentality that he would take. Yeah. In 2019, we deployed. You said Kenneth Faried, right? Yeah. Kenneth Faried came in and was so critical when Clint Capella got down. He didn't
even play during the playoffs.
And in the playoffs, he all of a sudden, as soon as it started before the playoffs, as soon as Clint Capella came back in the regular season. It was like, oh, well, no more spot for you.
Yeah, why? That's crazy. That's crazy. And this dude, he was actually doing what Clint Capella was doing.
Not defensively, but he's rebounding. He's providing some kind of an inside presence.
And he could get his own shot. He didn't need all the time for somebody to throw him an alley or something like that. He could actually go out and create his own shot.
He even showed that he expanded his range to hit threes, which was not a part of his game, but he hit a few of them to show like I'm expanding my range. I'm doing these things. And then it's like in the playoff, and all of a sudden you take someone who's a critical contributor to your team during the season, and they're just not there. Well, what was the and then this season, Ben McLemore, you can look at every number, every metric, the best shooter on the team, bar none.
Ben McLemore, yeah.
And I didn't know Ben McLemore had it like that.
Me either.
He got to the point where you say you expect him to get an open look, it's going in every single time. Yeah. So the fear that I hear for some Rocket fans is that Ben McLemore is a defensive liability. He would get lost defensively. Mm-hmm. Well, that may be the case, but every number shows that when he plays his stuff, the team does better. They win. They had the margin of victory expands. Everything was better with him on the court because of the spacing that he brought and delivered for Russ to drive and James to operate.
Ben McLemore, I felt better watching this playoff when Ben McLemore was on the court and when Jeff Green. Yeah, when Jeff Green was doing better at hitting 3-pointers than James Harden was. Yeah. If you ask me.
But it was
let me say this. I know y'all listening to this podcast, we're Rockets fans. I mean, you cut us, we bleed red. That's a joke. You cut us, we bleed red. And right now it don't sound like we are real Rockets fans because we're being critical of them. But you know what? We love our team. We love our team, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it 100.
Yeah, and the thing is, you just got to call it how you see it. I don't like to see my team lose, especially when I know what they're capable of, And so this is just being real. We don't want to come off like all biased, like, oh, it's the Rockets, nobody else. It don't matter what we do, we can't mess up. And it ain't even like that. I mean, every year we heartbroken because we get so close, and then to have a coach that don't pay attention to the details, that just continue to make the same mistakes every year in the playoffs. It's hard to watch. And so now we're gonna ride with our team no matter what. I know there's a good chance that next year we're gonna be heartbroken again, but that's what fans do. We're fanatic.
Riding with them.
It's
I'll talk
crazy.
myself into believing it.
It's crazy. It's crazy the punishment that we put ourselves through. My wife became a Rockets fan in 2018. She didn't know nothing really about basketball. All she knew was Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And she just knew the name. She probably wouldn't be able to tell you what they look like. But she started watching in 2018, and she saw what those Rockets were capable of, and she saw what they were accomplishing, and she was excited, just like everybody else. And that was her introduction to NBA basketball. And then now to follow that up with the next 2 seasons that we had is just heartbreaking. And when you're a new fan and you're not used to that heartbreak, it just does something to you, you know. But yeah, so we fans, we're gonna ride with them no matter what. I don't even care. The next topic we talked about, and we're gonna make this quick because I wanted to get your take on it. We talked about the 76ers trying to pick up Mike D'Antoni as the coach. And then there's a report on the Bleacher Report that they picked up D'Antoni because they thought that D'Antoni would be able to lure James Harden and some of the other Rockets players over to the 76ers. What do you make of that? Do you think that that's a possibility, number one? And I know this story is just coming out.
It's a possibility. It is a possibility. As far as where I stand on the Rockets and the rebuild, I don't think that it's in the Rockets' best interest to rebuild, at least not right now.
Right. Well, they're going to have a hard time rebuilding unless people would just do trades with them because they don't have a salary cap.
So the reason why I say it'd be hard to rebuild is because the Rockets already gave up all the draft picks. They don't really have – like, if you look at Oklahoma City, they've already built up this war chest already. And if they start and trade Chris Paul and the way he played this year, you might be able to get some assets. You may be able to get something for him.
Yeah.
You know,
he developed them good.
Yeah. You can get assets for Gallinari. You can get an asset for Steven Adams. You know, the Rockets don't have a lot of players that you're going to get assets for.
So do you think that'll be a reason why James Harden might decide to – because it is what it is at this point, right?
No, well, I won't say because it's proven that NBA superstars kind of can force what they want. Mm-hmm. James has always seemed really loyal and really, content and happy being in Houston. And I think that he may be one of the type of players that if I don't win a championship, Damian Lillard came out and been on record saying this over and over. If I can't win it here, I'm not going to run and ring chase.
I like that about Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
And I suspect that James Harden might be that same type of guy because that's his legacy right now. The Houston Rockets it's James Harden team. And I think every player wants that. They want to win the ring, but you want to do it with the team that
especially while he's still in his prime and he still has impact. He believes that he can get over the top. I just think that James is to the point. He's so far like where he is. Mm-hmm. And he makes so much money. The only teams that would trade for James would be a team that if they're trading for James, they're trading into a situation where they're instantly contending for a title.
Right.
Philadelphia on a trade for James could make some sense because they have us also star players they can send back in return and kind of get close to matching salary and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So there could be some sensible things as long as they kept Embiid, for instance, as long as they kept Joel Embiid. Or maybe even Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons would function as just a bigger Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Then they would have they would still have a chance. They would still be in contention. So Philly does make some sense. But there's very few teams that fit that mold where you could give James Harden to them and they would actually be able to contend. Mm-hmm. And they can also send assets and stuff back that would make it worthwhile for the Rockets to do.
But here's the thing. I think in order for James Harden to want to go to another team, I think James Harden has got one of those alpha mentalities to where it's like, if I go to another team, I want it to be my team.
Yeah.
Even if they got other superstars on that, are we going to center this offense around me? We going to center the team around me? And I'll tell you what, with Mike D'Antoni's.
is would actually facilitate James still being the leader, because that's Ben Simmons is not out there to just score. He's an all around player. He can shoot, but he's doing everything. He's rebounding, he's assisting, and that's his thing.
I saw too on the Bleacher Report that Joel Embiid is excited about the possibility of Mike D'Antoni coming, because he feels like Mike D'Antoni is gonna let him play facing the basket instead of with his back to the basket like a big man. But I say this about Joel Embiid: don't get too comfortable in Philly, because Mike D'Antoni might trade you because he want to go play small ball.
So and that's the thing, though. If Mike D'Antoni goes to Philly,
they might
I don't
get
see him going there coaching Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. It's either or.
Yeah.
And which one, and they have a tough decision to make. They're gonna have to split them two up, and I don't know who you go with. I think you have a longer window going with Ben Simmons because he's younger. I think he'll hold up physically more. Joel Embiid's body is proven to wear down.
Would you want to see Joel Embiid in Houston?
I wouldn't be mad at it. Joel Embiid is a problem.
He a problem, but
you're a player in the league. There's nobody in the league that can guard Joel Embiid. Nobody.
Yeah. But we would need somebody else too besides just Joel Embiid, because he wears down too.
He has to have a lead guard with him.
Yeah.
And that lead guard doesn't have to be a superstar, but you need a lead guard. There's some situations that, and don't take this as a jab like I'm downplaying, but if you put Joel Embiid with a CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
Like if Portland and Philly traded Ben Simmons and CJ McCollum for each other, I think both Philly and Portland would be better for it. Portland needs to split up CJ McCollum and Dame Lillard. They're never going to win with them two. They're too similar. Yeah. They just duplicate, and too much of they're not what you need defensively, and that's even all respect to Dame Lillard as a superstar. CJ McCollum is a bona fide all-star.
And do you think CJ McCollum will actually get better if he split up from Damian Lillard?
Yeah.
I think so too.
He would have the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
On more of a full-time basis to be the guy and make the plays. And I think that it would benefit both of them. There's some other situations where, that I think trade them too. CJ McCollum, for if you traded CJ McCollum out for Chris Middleton, Milwaukee would be better. And you can move Bledsoe on.
I wouldn't mind having Chris Middleton on the Rockets team, but hey, AB, we got to leave it there, brother. So if you tuning in to our podcast, we want you guys to subscribe to the channel. We're gonna have a lot more discussions like this. We're gonna go
like and subscribe.
What'd you say?
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. There you go. Like, subscribe, and comment, because if you guys leave some relevant comments in the comment section, we'll talk about it on the show, and we might actually have you on as a guest on our show, and we can get into the weeds of everything. Come ready, because me and AB, we're gonna bring it to you. Rep your squad. We're gonna rep our squad, and we hope you guys enjoyed the show. We had a lot more that we wanted to discuss, but hey, this is one of them shows where we were playing it fast and loose.
Listen, you get me talking about basketball, especially the Rockets. I can go on and on, and again, we're not gonna always agree. We might have had a lot of where we agreed, today, but I'm gonna be real. So we might always agree, and then if you come on the show, we invite a guest on, and you have a different opinion, feel free to speak up. Speak up. We're gonna
eat your lunch.
Do your homework. Do
your homework. So this show is different. It's meant to be different. It's meant to be exciting, and we're gonna do it again. All right, bro.
All right.
We're gonna go ahead and leave it
there. I'll have my rocket gear on next time.
Bring your Rockets gear and get your background game up.
All right.